Bum 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 bum. Hey YouTube, it's your good friend Dominic Tringali here with issue 13 of the Build the Millennium Falcon model kit. Cover price on these after the first issue are $10.99, and that's euro, not your American dollars, as my voice might indicate you to believe. No, so that brings our grand total to €135.38. I still think that it's money well spent. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who would strongly disagree. So we got this awesome little graphic. This is a cool close-up of showing what the light feature will look like inside the cockpit. You might remember from a previous episode I talked about the light feature and had it all lit up. Very cool indeed. So let's just dive on into this issue and see what we find. So the first article here was actually the best read I've had so far. It was the Millennium Falcon early history article, where it kind of talks about all the different names. Let me see if I can pull focus on that one. All the different names that the Millennium Falcon has had, as well as former owners. So you can see that we've had names like the Fickle Flyer and the Jackpot, Hardwired, the Wayward Son, it's the Second Chance, Gone to Pieces, and then finally the Millennium Falcon. And I guess the previous owner would be this guy, Quip Fargle. I think that's how you pronounce that. Great article overall, talking about the Millennium Falcon, because as you know, this ship is actually quite old. I mean, it's had quite a few owners, and I mean, I don't know if they actually ever say here how old the ship is, but it's not a young ship by any stretch of the imagination. And of course, we all know that before Han Solo owned it, Lando Calrissian owned it for a brief period of time, and he lost it in a card game to Han Solo. That must have been some real high stakes cards, man, to like have a starship on the table. Maybe that's not really necessary. Maybe it's like kind of like when you see like in movies they throw keys up on the table and that's supposed to represent like that I'm betting like my car. I don't know. And another thing, man, we got Billy D. Williams here. And, I swear to God, Billy D. Williams was probably the most badass character in the original trilogy. I mean, Billy D. Williams. He was quite a big actor at this point. I mean, he was a bit of a sex symbol, from what I understand. And I always thought Lando was like the more classy version of Han Solo. I mean, they're both scumbags, but Lando. I mean, I would love to see more about Lando for sure in the future. Okay, then we got the Secrets of Spaceflight article talking about speed control, talking about while a ship is traveling in real space as opposed to hyperspace, it's possible to calculate her speed in terms of kilometers per hour. And in this way, the speed is controlled is very complex. Not only is a ship's speed affected by thrusters, but also by every object that she comes near. So we're talking about gravitational pulls and whatnot. I mean, this is getting the science behind this a little too in depth for my taste. I mean, I'm not a scientist by any stretch of imagination. I'm a sci-fi fanatic, but I'm not one of those guys who gets really caught up in the minutia of real-world physics in a sci-fi story. One of my favorite writers, for fiction was always Stan Lee. And Stan Lee often said that he didn't know anything about science, and that's why anyone who picks apart his stories from a scientific standpoint will find that he doesn't know anything whatsoever. So, I mean, this is talking about gravitational pull and like how you're able to actually use the gravity of an object to speed up your trajectory. I mean, I remember that stuff from physics class years ago when I was younger, but I'm sure that if my physics professor would have used the Millennium Falcon as a real-world example, I think I would have definitely enjoyed the class a lot more. So there's that. Speed controls, complex calculations all taking place. And then, of course, we also find out that they used some of components from the levers to fix up C-3PO's suit. I think that was kind of interesting. That all these parts needed to be used. I mean, they were on a budget, so they did what they had to. Very fascinating stuff. I mean, it really shocks me to think that this first Star Wars movie, they really did not know what the hell they were doing, or if this movie was going to make any money. And it's actually interesting. People in the know will have commented on this one, that when George Lucas made the original Star Wars film, he was not very positive that it was going to make a lot of money. And his good friend at the time, Steven Spielberg, was working on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I believe they traded percentage points with each other, because George Lucas thought that Close Encounters of the Third Kind was going to make all this money, and Steven Spielberg thought that George Lucas's Star Wars was going to make a lot of money. So they actually ended up trading percentage points. And so Steven Spielberg, of all people, has made a fortune off of the Star Wars movies. Very interesting. A little bit of trivia right there. And then we finally get a visit to the planet of Kamino. Okay. Kamino, if you don't know, is the home of the cloners, who are the ones who designed the clone troopers for the original clone army, which we see in the second film of the second trilogy, Attack of the Clones. 3 moon planet, 27 standard hours, 463 standard days to form an orbit around the sun. One sun of Kamino. We see then the planet Rishi. They talk about how it's in the Rishi maze. I'm never quite sure what the hell the Rishi maze is, but we do know it's very much a very heavily water. It's a water world. The natives of Kamino seem to be very technologically advanced, and they like to keep to themselves. So there's that. All right, and then we jump straight into our parts instructions for the day. So let me go ahead and grab the parts bag, and we can take a look at what's inside. So here it is, issue number 13, the parts bag. Let's tear it open and find out what we got inside. Okay, going from the biggest parts to the smallest, like always, we have this piece of framing, which I'm just going to put to the side because I've already taken a look at the instructions for today, and there's no framing that we're going to do today. This is another whole piece for the exterior. Obviously, because it lacks detail, it's going to be one of the lower pieces that we've been working on with the last issue. So again, I'll put that to the side, save it for a later date. The only parts we're going to really be needing today is this piece right here, which will go in the main hold that we've been working on with, here it is right here. So essentially these will go somewhere like right here. So it'll be a little bit more decorative than that. And then these things go right here as well. And then some more screws, because whenever you get framing pieces, you have to get these black screws, and you have to do something with them. So again, these will get put to the side, and we can go ahead and get right down to the assembling process. So this is what I've assembled so far, and none of this is actually assembled. Nothing is really glued together except for all these little decorative pieces that are attached to this wall. So this all comes apart, and so I'm going to disassemble all of this so then I can permanently fix it together. So I'll need both hands to do that, so I'll go ahead and do that, go ahead and take it all apart, and then show you what I'm going to be doing with the pieces. So here are all the pieces. As I showed you before, I painted this up, and I painted a few of the other pieces to really kind of make it all stick out a little bit. I never got around to actually putting any putty inside this chair piece. I will do that eventually, but for today, that's still in the state that you had seen it last. So the first step is going to be taking this couch piece right here, and actually you can see these small holes, these 4 or 5 holes there. I'm going to take these gold screws from last issue that I couldn't find what they fit into, and I'm actually going to screw this into the floor beneath. Alright, so let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what that looks like. Hey, okay, so this is what it looks like after you get those screws in. Alright, if you look underneath, you can clearly see the 5 gold screws I put in. Instead of gluing this in place, it's actually, it's really in place. Okay, So the next step here is they want me to glue this into place, but since I haven't, like I said, put in the putty here and painted these back sides, I'm not going to do that. It actually fits in just fine as is. It's not really going anywhere. That's a pretty tight fit, so I'm just going to leave it like that. The next step though is gluing this into place, and since this thing consistently comes out of place, I will go ahead and glue that into place and show you what that looks like afterwards. So not very much surprise there. You've seen what this looks like before, but now it is permanently in place, as permanent as super glue is. The next step though is to put up this wall, and then we're going to start screwing in the other walls to it, and they'll be all permanently fixed, just like this dejack table that I just put in. Alright, so great. So I went ahead and put a dab of glue down here, and I lined up this wall. Other than the glue point right here, it's completely freestanding. So the next step is to go ahead and take this wall right here and pop it into place. And then we're going to go ahead and put screws into the wall. There are holes that line up, and so I'll go ahead and do that and show you what that looks like when I'm all said and done. So not much surprise what this will end up looking like. So yeah, this corner right here is actually fused together now with these screw points. So I believe the next step is to put this long wall on and do the same treatment again. Okay, as you can see, I have put screws into all 4 points, and now I have 3 walls that are absolutely, let me see if I pull focus in, all 3 walls that are formed up properly. And so yeah, that's what it's going to end up looking like. You know, maybe I should have put a little glue on this wall and just pulled it in tight against this one. I'm not quite sure, but I don't really like that gap, so I might fix that actually. I'm not in love with it. All right. So the next step though is to take this piece right here and screw that into place. Take this piece right here and screw that into place. So we're going to go ahead and do that next and show you what the final product looks like. Okay, so I've screwed this into place, and if I turn it over and reverse it, you can see these same 4 gold screws again. And so yeah, those are in place. This thing's in place, and it's looking real good. The next step is to put this wall up here and going ahead and screwing it all together just like we did the other walls. So let's go ahead and do that and show you what the product looks like. So I've joined this wall to this wall right here with this piece, and all I gotta say is I'm a little disappointed actually that somehow they didn't figure out how to hide these screws like they did all the other ones. I guess there had to have been a wall that showed it, but I feel like this one really, this is gonna annoy me, like that the fact that for whatever reason the screws are visible on this particular wall, and I just think that's kind of bullshit actually. So my complaints to the D. Augustini, and let you guys know that if in the future, you know, please try to avoid stuff like this. Alright, my little 2 cents. I'll move on. Next step is to put this wall up here into place and do the same and put some screws in. So let's go ahead and do that and see what that looks like. Alright, so I have all the walls in place and screwed in. See, like this one, they all hide all the screws, but for whatever reason, these 2 screws have to be visible, and I think that's just really lowbrow. I didn't notice that until now, and that's not cool, man. So anyway, the next step is to put some piping on the computer, the terminal, there's a spot right here. I'm going to put some pipes on that and then glue this computer console into place. So I'll show you what that looks like, and we can get on with the next step. So I took one of the pipe screws off of this guy right here and glued it on. For whatever reason, they did at the factory paint on some of this black smear. I'm gonna have to fix that once I get an appropriately matched color paint, because that just looks like shit to me. I'm really kind of disappointed in that regard. But the next step, it's all glued into place. So the next step is just to go ahead and glue this like that. There's these brackets, so it will end up looking something like that when it's all glued into place. There was one last pipe on that sprue, and that's this one right here. And it's going to go right where you see this hole down by the, point at it if you don't see it right there. There's a hole, so I'll be putting a dab of glue in and putting this last pipe in to give the area just a little bit more detail. So I'll go ahead and glue that in place and then show you what it looks like. So as you can see now, that pipe is in place, and what a minor little step that is. But the next step is to take these pieces right here, bust open this bag, and put this thing together. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so I've opened those two bags of parts that I got in the last two issues, the ones that included these pipes, and the ones that included the pieces that look like this. So inside the big pipe bag were these little pipes. So, and then the instructions tell me to take one of these and just pin it into place, and so that the way the pipes are not going to be able to go anywhere. And then so I'm going to go ahead and glue that together and show you what the final product looks like. Okay, so we glued this piece into place, which pulls these little pipes into place. Then we take the pipe like so, and we line it up like so. And this one's going to just free float as well. So the pipes will look something like that, all said and done. They'll be supported against this back wall, which I get in the next issue. And so the next step is just to take these struts, these pieces right here, and then just glue them all the way down the line and make that look nice. So I've glued all those beams into place. I put the pipes down below, so they're locked into place. These pipes right here are just free floating for right now. They could easily come out. I'm not going to glue them, and wait until the next issue where I'll be getting another piece to finish this all up. Alright, so this is the last step for the day, so let's show you what's in the next issue. So with issue 14, I'll be getting the last wall for my main hold there, along with this corridor entrance, much similar to the one I did before, where I'll be putting in these little pads along the rim, and this last little door will go in here. You can see all that. I'll be getting another framing piece to go with the framing piece I got in this issue, and I assume I'll be getting another framing piece in issue 15 as well, and I'll be linking those together in issue 15 and forming up 9 framing pieces for the lower hull, and actually probably test fitting a lot of these pieces as well. So that'll be an exciting issue for sure. So guys, my question of the day is, what's your favorite race and why in the Star Wars universe? Mine, of course, are the Wookiees. I've loved them. I love Chewbacca, and when I finally got a chance to see all those Wookiees fight in the third Star Wars movie, Revenge of the Sith, it was so awesome. I love the Wookiees. I think they're such an interesting species. Even when we got to find out some things about them in the Star Wars Christmas special, that was entertaining. So guys, leave your comments down below to the question. Make sure to like this video, big thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I'm really trying to hit that first milestone of 100 subscribers. I'm getting really close, and I would love by the end of next month to reach it. So guys, take care, and I'll see you for issue 14.